Okay, welcome back to the Jiu Jitsu Mindset. My name's Pete Deeley. My co-host, Professor Lucas Hubo, be along another show, but not today. So you're stuck with the old beginner instead of the young lion joining me. But as we talked, a lot this year, he's got a new one, a young son who's just lovely. But all parents seem to just exactly all parents are exhausted. And I know that Professor Lucas is drinking his submission coffee. So should you need a subscription to our submission coffee, go to the jujitsumindset.com. Few competitors, it's still unclassified as a performance enhancing drug. So you can drink it safely before your tournaments. Every week or so, the divine smiles on me and brings extraordinary people to me to talk to and learn from. And this week, it's a great privilege for me to introduce my guest, Professor Mikal Abdullah. So, Professor, I'm really excited to talk with you and grateful for you spending some time with us.
It's a huge honor for me as well, and I am super grateful to have the opportunity to be here and to share. Thanks for the invitation.
As I was doing my homework, ahead of time, I mean, you have extraordinary success as a jiu-jitsu athlete, it seems as a business person and a presence in the world of jiu-jitsu, you've had great success there as well. And even in our pre interview beginning, there's things that I don't know about that, you've brought into the jiu-jitsu world that's making it, improving it for all of us. Um, so always curious to ask a question, in the negative, so to speak, like if jiu-jitsu had not come to occupy the space that it does in your life, where would that energy have gone to? If not this, then what else might you have done?
Man, that's a really interesting question. Um, I have meditated on that quite a bit, and like a lot of people, jujitsu, the benefits of jujitsu have like permeated through my life in so many ways that it's hard to I, I like I identify what a version of me would look like. The best thing that I could say, or the closest, I think, the most accurate thing I could say, is that a lot of the benefits that improved me as a person might not have happened, or might have taken a whole lot longer for me to achieve if I didn't have the vehicle of jujitsu to optimize me. Right? When I first started training jujitsu, and I already grown up wrestling, but when I first started doing jujitsu, which has its own separate benefits. I had just gotten out of the military, and I was starting a different different journey in my life. And I did the one thing guys probably should not do. I accepted an invitation from like three strangers to come wrestle in their garage. Right? Uh, I do not advocate other people do
Right.
that.
Did you check their ears before you said yes, crying out loud?
I a little side look to the side. I was like, man, I've got I come from a strong wrestling pedigree. I feel very confident.
Yeah.
Um, and so I again, that doesn't mean this was a good decision or a scalable decision, right? But I accepted. I went to this garage, rolled with these guys. This guy half my size, like it could not handle me standing. None of the guys really could. And I took this guy down again, half my size, took him down, um, easily, right into a choke, right into a choke, right. So I was like, okay, that was clearly a fluke, right?
Hmm.
Clearly a fluke.
Right.
So we stood up, set up, did the exact same thing, and the exact same thing happened,
Right.
right? And I was like, okay, fluke number two,
Right. Right. Yeah,
right?
it's
We,
amazing how this happened. Yeah, like twice the universe just made a glitch. Right.
Absolutely. Oh, sometimes I have a hard head, so it took a third time.
Hmm.
We did a third time, and he's talking to me. He's honestly being a really nice guy, and he's like a blur of what he's saying because I'm just processing what happened, and then I start tapping. He's like, "What are you doing? I'm not even touching you." Right? And I'm like, "I am emotionally tapping. Like whatever I want, whatever you're doing is right. I want to learn that. Like
Right.
that
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
you know and then the start of my jiu-jitsu journey, and I have a bunch of really cool adventures that happened after that, took me around the world and doing really cool stuff. But along the way, I grew as a person in ways that I didn't see coming. And I became a more empathetic person. I looked at problems differently, right? I looked at people differently and improved my worldview in some ways,
Yeah.
and confirmed some of my other worldviews in other ways. And so man, I would be so much less of a person
What's the
today.
lever, Mikhail? Like, what? I'm just curious. I mean, because what's the lever in the jujitsu experience that moves a person, moves you from one perspective to the other? Like, what's going on in the jujitsu experience that creates the opportunity for that growth? Because I imagine there are people that could go through the same experience and not open themselves to the growth, but clearly you did. But I'm curious, what do you think it is that moves a person in the jujitsu experience?
I think it's several levers, right? And one of them in particular is, when I first started training, I feel like a lot of black belts want to pretend, that they were always this monk or something. Like when I first came to jiu-jitsu, I just wanted to make people do stuff against their will. You know what
Hmm.
I mean? Like I was like,
Sure.
I want to slam you on the ground. I want to be able to force a submission. I want to be able to make these things happen,
Right.
right? And I could, to a degree, right? And once there was a certain like size discrepancy or skill discrepancy, then all of a sudden I couldn't, right? I was not, I was not able to, or was not aware of how to achieve my goal. And, and that, and I realized that I had to focus less. This is where it starts to sound like a PBS special. I had to focus less on controlling them and more on controlling me,
Yes, nice.
right? Moving myself to the right position. I had to focus more on my goals, right? As opposed to making them do things. And I'm sure a lot of other practitioners have probably experienced this, but that was super impactful for me. And I oftentimes think about strategy. I love strategy games,
Hmm.
right? And so I started really associating, like, I had a mentor, great black belt, who who told me that it was important to live your life. 'Cause we're talking about objectivity and strategy, and he was like, "It's important, I think, to live your life like you roll, right? And really identify, what your strategy is, or
Nice.
system of strategies, and what's the because jujitsu at its core isn't arm bars and takedowns, stuff like that. At its core, it's navigating and managing obstacles,
Right.
right?
Nice.
And which is a big part of what life is. And uh and so like bringing those into alignment for me uh has been really huge. I started keeping even notes, like, this is my theory on how to pass
Yeah.
the
Nice.
guard,
Yeah,
right? And like, how do I pass this life situation I'm dealing with? You know what I mean?
I do. And for me, it is the problem made manifest in outside of your mind, outside. Like when you talk about strategy and you talk about the obstacles that were generally, they're often uh, theoretical or they're an idea. But
Yeah,
in jujitsu, the notion of, what does it mean to be off balance? What does it mean to not have good base, to not be connected, are spelled out for us in this physical manner. It's not, if I say, well, if you don't have a firm grounding and your base is off, things happen in one way. And if you do,
yeah,
and to me, if I tell my children, I got a blended family of 5 kids, or I'm trying to impart
yeah,
some old man wisdom, like, hey, you have to be grounded in life.
yeah,
Uh, that's an idea, but when someone is harder to be pushed over because your base is good, for me, bringing those ideas where it plays out right in front of you, you can feel it, is of an
yeah,
important lever to me. And I found jujitsu at 50. So, I came with it with a totally different set of eyes than I would have at 20. As somebody who was in the military, had a strong, like, wrestling as a combat sport, right? I mean, all of those um, things that were a part of your life before you got to jujitsu. When you look back now, do you have anything that you would say to yourself as you started the journey, or did it unfold just as it should?
I think you know, it naturally it's easy to justify, and, everything happened as it should have been. I
Right.
think it's okay to have wanted your journey to be more efficient, and then I take that energy and I put it into helping other people with
Yeah.
their jujitsu journeys to be
Hmm.
more efficient than mine. As a coach and professor, I think some of those things have to do with organization of learning, right?
Nice. Nice.
I think the old school idea that to put a number on, like, it takes 10 to 15 years to become a black belt, that's how long it should take. I think I think that that is looking at things in a really inefficient way,
Right.
right? In an incomplete way. It takes as long as it takes a person,
Yes.
and we can become more efficient as educators, as coaches, right? In order to help get more out of people more quickly,
Right.
right? And then we got to take that on ourselves and on them, right? Here's additional learning tools,
Yes.
right? That we can utilize. Here's additional um, ways to structure how you see your game planning,
Hmm.
right? Here's additional. You know what I mean? These are things that we can do. Um, and I kind of had to find a bunch of those things on my own and
Yeah.
start studying education, right? And improve my journey. And I'm very fortunate that uh, that that I was able to do that, and I had people around me who were some of them who were open-minded to it.
Right.
But I think that's what I would share with myself, like a younger version of myself.
And when you think about the journey, we talk about the refining of the conveyance of knowledge, right? I mean, we're refining the teaching methods, the teaching, and I like to play chess, and I always think about chess. It's been the
Yeah,
same 64 squares and same pieces for thousands of years. We're still unlocking different ways to kind of go about it, or go or pick your board strategy game of choice. And
yeah,
so the refinement of the physical arts, I think, are similar, if not the same, right? So refinement um
yeah,
over time. Do you think that the acquiring of like jujitsu skills have an obvious analogy, like it's the most similar to this, or do you think it's sort of a unique process altogether? Um, we maybe it's common everywhere. We talk about the
mhm,
blue belt curse, right? Like somebody
yeah.
checks some box and then that's all. And there's nothing wrong with that on some level. Like, okay, not everybody needs it for their entire life, but somehow or other, I feel like folks are stopping before they have the type of vocabulary that they need to know,
Yeah.
is this something I should always have with me? So I'm curious, when you think about how you've refined your teaching style, if there are things that you're like, these are obvious blockers, like this is why people are not learning this as fast as possible. Or maybe it's just you got a more refined sense of the individual and you're just better at helping person by person them overcome what's in the way of them learning.
I think that, for one, a bunch of the jujitsu is similar to learning most other things. I
Hmm.
think a human being's journey from going to wherever they are starting to a level of mastery,
Right.
right, is going to be similar whether you're learning how to juggle, right,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
whether you're
Right.
learning
Right.
jujitsu, or whether you're learning, like calligraphy,
Hmm.
or whatever that thing is, or chess, right?
Right.
And I think that we go through these, like, the stages of grief, we go through these stages of learning, right? And some people uh, check out at different stages,
Right. Yeah.
and I think with jujitsu, some people have a hard. Jujitsu is difficult in a interesting way,
Yes.
that you keep having to look at yourself in order
Right.
to improve, and see the incompleteness of yourself. I
Yeah.
even tell
Oh, that's well
when
said.
I
Yeah.
work with black belts,
Yeah.
I, I'm like, man, and 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 then be curious and ponder, like, how could I get this 5-step move done in 2 steps?
Right.
Yeah, I've been doing an arm bar for 20 years, but how do I make this a little more efficient?
Right.
You know what I mean? Considering these additional things. And it's emotionally difficult for a lot of people. And I think it's subconsciously don't even think of it as emotionally difficult, but it is. Like, man, this is hard, right?
I had a great deal of emotional awareness at the very beginning of like how hard it was because although, as I'm 55 now, I mean, I still think of myself as an athlete, although like that's how high I can raise my hands. Like my
Yeah,
body doesn't work in the way that the body should work. However, I still think of myself as an athlete, and I am an athlete within the confines
I agree with that.
of my
Yeah,
the constraints that my body offers me. But that mind body connection for me was hard to reconcile that it's going to that it was going to take as long as it was going to take never mind competency, just to kind of like get something I could build on. Um,
yeah,
and I'm as beginner as they come, in 5 years in, like I can't believe my brain's still not grasping what I would think of as pretty basic at the level. So and for me, I'm a person that will do it till they bury me. And at this point, the ego has been crushed out of me. I don't have any concerns about what other people perceive as my skills. Like I'm out there for myself. And the young lions in my gym are tolerant to the old guy walking around asking to roll. Um, but anyway, it sounds like you have a patience that has come to yourself that then you're extending to other people, and a willingness to say, even to the folks that have a lot of experience, perhaps if you had a certain level of curiosity, we can move this along in ways you didn't even think were possible, even though you have a lot of experience.
absolutely. If you don't mind me sharing one quick thing, like I was recently talking to a black belt um, who got caught by pretty high level purple belt. Um, got caught by him with an entry that he had not seen before,
Oh, wow.
and he was talking to me about it, right? And I suck, and I can't believe this. I got caught by some purple belt and stuff like that. And I was, I was like, and I asked him like, okay, let's break it into parts, man. And like, so what did he catch you with? And he explained it to me. And I was like, okay, cool. How have you solved that before? He's like, honestly, I'd never seen that before.
Yeah.
All right, that entry seemed, different. And I was like, oh, cool, right? So you're a black belt, right? Yes. How'd you become a black belt? Well, I kept training. I interrupted him. I was like,
Yeah.
so you ran into problems and then you solved them.
Right.
What
Right.
percentage of the problems have you solved up until this point in your journey? He's like, all of them. I was like, great. This is a new problem.
Right.
That's all it is. Don't like catastrophize who you are and like your whole journey and
Oh,
everyone
sure.
you're
Yeah.
like,
Right.
I've
Right.
let
Yeah.
everybody down and all this kind of dude.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
It's just a new problem to solve. Solve this
Right.
problem and go smash that dude. You know, and and it was so interesting to see that as a relief to offer him some patience for himself,
Yes.
right?
Nice.
Let's
Yeah.
be objective, right? Let's be dispassionate, like solve the structure for what it
Right.
is, and then you're gonna have a new hypothesis, and then we're gonna implement it, right?
Yeah.
And then smash that guy.
Yeah.
And and it worked. We broke. I mean, I broke it. We broke it down at the beginning, middle, and end pieces. I had some ideas for him very quickly. He was like, "Yeah, that does make sense." And
Right.
I'm like, "With it," and then he went, and it wasn't an issue anymore, right? But
So yeah, and so often like competition distills that experience for many people because there's a, you know, forgive me for putting it this way, but a perceived consequence, right? I mean, there's a consequence, yes, win or loss, but in terms of a person's life, that's a moment that will open up the next moment. So it's an opportunity, the
Mhm.
cliche of win or learn, I think is a good perspective to take.
Yeah.
Um, and so I am curious about sort of your perspective on competition because do you feel like it's a useful thing for everybody to get a taste of, or is it, purely, hey, it's out there, but it's not necessary? I mean, what's your sense of that? Because the competition will give that to everybody at every level. Hey, I caught somebody and I didn't expect to catch him, or I got caught, I didn't get expected to, you know.
No, no, I do think it's pretty important, right? So like I tell people you win, like and or you learn,
Right, right,
right? Because even when you win, you're learning stuff.
for sure.
You should be. I think competition really, at some point, every jujitsu practitioner, if they are able, should compete,
Mhm.
right? I really believe so. There's other things that we have to deal with, right, inside a competition that I think makes a strong black belt,
Yes.
right, or like that unleashes that inner version of you that you can be,
Yes.
right? And one of those, like as an example, some of those include like dealing with the pressure of competing
Right.
in public, dealing with the lead up, controlling your emotions, like controlling your mindset,
Yes.
like these are all things I think that make us better people, right? Because life oftentimes comes as a surprise,
Right.
right, to us, and our ability to manage those obstacles as a surprise under pressure, while people are watching. If you get better at that, I would argue that you are better at being human, right?
Yes, yeah. There's a famous architect called I.M. Pei, right? Pei, and he's like one of the 20th century's great architects. And I was watching an interview with him, and he had built um, this structure for kids, and it was a set of blocks that all sort of receded into um, a pyramid of sorts, and you could get to the top. And he built it for children, and he's taking the person who's interviewing them up the structure,
Mhm.
and the interview's like, well, what is this about? And he's like, I'm creating false danger. Like the kids will climb this, but it's set up to be safe. And so the child will feel the dangerousness. And yes, there is some danger in there, but it's really designed to basically begin inoculating a kid to like, hey, you can do things that scare you. And in there is that thin layer of jujitsu professionals in the world where a win or loss could have outsized confidence, but most of the jujitsu world is some version of me, which is that we're doing this because we love to do it. And competition for me feels like I'm building my muscles to inoculate myself against other stresses in my
Yep.
life. And so when I hear you say that, that's kind of what occurs to me. Well, you've been in many, many, many,
Yeah.
contests. And if I ask you, hey, what's the most memorable role or most memorable contest? What's your uh, what's your lizard brain spit back out at me like, oh, this one pops out as the one that was really impactful to me.
Man, well, this man, that's really interesting question. Because I have a bunch of ones that I thought were notable. I'd say uh, this last year, I wanted to communicate to some of my athletes. We're talking about preparation. You know what I mean? And I
Right.
could tell guys, stay ready so you don't have to get ready. Right.
Right. Yeah. Very good.
And some of the guys were making excuses about preparation. And I was like, I'm going to go compete, two cities, multiple competitions in 7 days, right? And I went out and did it. I was really fortunate. Got to meet and see some great black belts in those competitions. 0 points scored on me. Um,
Awesome.
Subbed pretty much everybody,
Okay.
and it was more of a and it's not just like, oh, hey, look at me. It's a the I would say the notable thing in in those encounters was I think this is for was the effect that it had on students,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
So for coaches out there who are able, and then not everybody's able,
Right.
right? But if you are able, I think going out there and competing each year, um, or whatever interval. I'm not gonna put a timeline on it or whatever,
Understood.
right?
Yeah.
But it has an effect on your communities, our communities,
Mhm.
and I think that's really cool, right? To be able to see not just the techniques, which is kind of the surface level of what everybody's looking at, but the like, okay, this is how you handled yourself, how you stayed calm, how
Yes.
like, okay,
Yeah.
this was your process. Okay, let me take some from your process and add it to my armor, add it to
Hmm.
set himself aside. I saw how he warmed himself up, what
Yeah.
kind of music he played, like what
Yeah.
kind of food he ate. You know what I mean? And I think that
Sure.
those things are really, um, I think those things are really cool,
Yeah.
regardless of whether I did well or not, which fortunately I did. But like, I think that lead by example is is pretty dope.
Yeah, without a doubt. And this, there's a lot of relativism that is in the our world and in our like conversations, but I'm of the mind that there are some things that are better than other things. And I think that when you take a look at preparation and your preparation yielded a certain result, and yes, there's variables that not everybody can apply to themselves. Skills, you have knowledge, you have innate
Yeah,
abilities that not everybody has. But what you demonstrated, I think, is a better way than being lazy with preparation. Is
yeah,
being whatever, unintentional about, hey, I want to do thing. I'd like result A, but I'm not willing to do the things that will get me that result, as opposed to, hey, I have an opinion that this is the right way to do it. And the fact that it's backed up with, the type of success, I think other people then, as a coach, like, well, this person knows what they're talking about. I mean, I think it matters. So as a
yeah,
person that values discipline, I think that I love the Navy leader who talks about making your bed, right? Like,
yeah,
so you want to improve your life, make your bed. We can all
yeah.
do that, and I think he's right. Like, I think that's
I agree with you.
right. I think it's just good advice. I
Yeah,
think it applies to everybody. Well, as you brought back sort of the success and you had prepared in a way that led by example, I am curious in, your years of bringing this to other people, and I know you have many stories, but maybe in a similar way of like, what was the most notable fight or role? Do you have a story of somebody that you're like, what, jujitsu had an outsized impact on this person, and maybe you could share a little bit of that with us?
man. Man, I'm like trying to parse each of those,
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because there's like a different story for each one of those. Like, there was a really interesting. Is that on or off the mats?
Your choice. I
Yeah.
trust you.
Oh
Take
man,
take us to wherever you want to go.
there is a self defense situation,
Okay.
right? So after the military, I did everything from um executive security to bouncing to all that stuff. And the so you garner a bunch of fight stories, right?
Right.
And because in those different lines of work. And but my favorite fight story
Okay.
is it was actually happened just a couple of years ago. I was already a black belt, and we were watching this. Have you heard of that movie Whiskey Tango Foxtrot?
Yeah, I
It
think
was
yes.
Tina Fey, yeah. And we're watching that movie in Alamo, and it was my then girlfriend, now wife, and we're watching this movie at Alamo. We're not really movie talkers, uh, but she like whispered something to me
Right.
about Afghanistan. She's like, "Is that what it was like, or something?" And I was like, "Eh." And then she leaned forward to eat her food, and as she did it, some guy was like uh, staring at me, who was sitting on the other side of her. Yeah, it's like a movie. As she leaned forward, he's like right there,
Oh my gosh.
and he's like got all the hipster accoutrement. You know what I mean?
Okay.
He's got his Pabst Blue Ribbon hat, scarf on. He's got flip up sunglasses in a dark theater. I'm like, man, he is wearing the uniform, right? And
Right.
and he's like, okay, so you're not supposed to do that in here. And I did the thing I shouldn't have done, and I giggled, right?
Right.
And because it was an awkward situation, he's
Sure.
like, let's take this outside, and so
That was a fast escalation
it was a very fast escalation.
over
It
a
was like I was
whisper in
like,
the theater. That's something.
yeah, man. And I thought, he's gonna if he doesn't know how to fight, so he's gonna swing and hit
Mhm.
her or something like that. And so I get up. It's not my first rodeo. I look at
Right.
the row. He's got a buddy. Buddy gets up. We all, he's I'm walking real slow to give him a chance to chill, de-escalate. And by the time I get outside, his buddy sees like America's Cup grappling shirt or on it. He's like, "Do you train at all or something?" And I'm like, just a little bit, right?
Mm.
And so we get outside, and the guy is like on the movie Grease. He's like smoking a cigarette already, and
Right.
one
Yeah.
drag threw it on the ground. I'm like, what are we doing? This is bananas. Um, so the guy's like, let's go around the corner, and we're gonna fight. And I'm like, okay, we don't have to, right? We're not going around the corner, right? If we're gonna do it, we're gonna do it right here. Anyway, long story short,
Right.
I get uh, uh, tight waist around him, and uh, and I'm ready to suplex this man, right?
Yeah.
And then he puts his head on my chest, and he starts to cry. He thought I was hugging him.
Oh, wow.
He- yeah, bro. He's like, I hadn't been hugged since I was a kid. His life was falling apart. He was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
oh man, I just got fired from a job. I don't know who I am anymore. My relationship, right?
Yeah.
This is my favorite fight story, but no fight actually happened, right?
Right.
Uh,
Right. Yeah.
eh, and and the guy is like, and then I suplexed him anyway. I'm just kidding. I did. Um, I just held that guy, and he was like, I'm sorry, man. I'm just going through a lot. I,
Well,
uh,
clearly that man was not thinking clearly. I mean, nobody takes a look at you and goes, "That's the guy, that I want to take out of the side of the theater." To be frank, I mean, so his mind was definitely placed elsewhere. But it's funny about that notion of connection being healing for that person in that moment. I had
yeah,
Professor Chris Burns on last week, and he was talking about how that human connection between people is just something so important to him. And I think
yeah,
jujitsu does operate on parts of our mind and soul that we're not thinking about. So the fact
yeah,
that this person was actually put in a dangerous situation, but his first instinct was like, oh, he's holding this
yeah,
there's something interesting about both the threat and the protectiveness happening at the same moment. I find that
yeah.
a fascinating
I still meditate on that, and think about it. Like how many, like I've seen in the people, die in street fights and
sure.
situations and stuff like that before. And I remember meditating on that. Naturally, I prepared to handle a hand-to-hand situation,
Right.
right? But it didn't have to escalate, and the dude was actually dealing with his own stuff,
Yeah.
and the I've talked to students about that and about your preparedness to be able to handle those situations. Um, but also the ability to de-escalate it if you want to is like a really cool superpower that I
Without a
think
doubt.
makes the world a better place the more people that are aware of how to do it. And
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
I
And
do. I
so,
do. Yeah. I mean, I think about that in terms of jujitsu as self-defense. And I know, it's a martial art. I mean, this is to all of
yeah,
that. But I mean, my physical confrontations are all of my youth, and were
yeah,
90% of those physical altercations are largely because of my own, unwillingness to de-escalate, not that I had to fight. And as an
yeah,
adult, de-escalation has kept me out of. Uh, now I recognize,
yeah,
that's not true for everybody under all circumstances,
yeah,
but for me, those emotional, that emotional development, the learning that you don't have to bite every
yeah,
hook that's put in front of you, all that stuff
yeah,
is
yeah.
right is useful.
It's made you
Um,
a much wiser man, I'm sure.
yeah, it has been a fascinating kind of journey through, what's important. Who do you perceive yourself to be? What does it mean to be strong? All of those things. My grandfathers were World War II soldiers and you know, they were soldiers in lots and lots of dangerous things, doing dangerous things and all the
Yeah,
rest of it. When they were my grandfathers, they had no need to express to anybody how tough they
yeah,
were. They had no
yeah,
need for any of that. And it informed me, it informed my notion of what does it mean to be a man. Here were
yeah,
people that had no doubt about what they were capable of in terms of conflict because they had been through extraordinary physical conflict and danger.
mhm,
And there was never a moment that I even, they were not even people to raise their voice, really. I mean, they just
yeah.
really cultivated a peaceful dynamic around them. So,
I think
well,
that's so important.
yeah, I think for men in particular, we your model of like strength and um, who you want to be, carrying yourself through the world. Um, I was very lucky. I had very, very good men with broad notions of like how to be a good human being. Um, and maybe someday I'll do the same for other people. I hope so, at least. Um,
Sounds like you are with this project.
uh,
Sorry for the interruption.
yeah,
Sounds like you're doing just that, brother.
that's generous. Well, listen, there are going to be people who want to go learn about how to find you and learn about what you're doing, and follow your projects. And tell us where we should send those guys.
They can they find me on Instagram at Cerebral BJJ, uh, or on YouTube at Aces Jiu Jitsu Club.
Okay.
You can just DM me if you find me on Instagram.
Okay.
We do a bunch of really cool stuff there, and from our BJJ retreats in Morocco to our software, helping people train with Roll Recap. So
Very
if
good.
they find me at Cerebral BJJ on Instagram, then I love to help people however I can in their journey.
Well, I'm gonna ask you to come back, and I want to talk about some of those things, and in particular the retreat, because I am curious about your experiences creating a space where somebody's outside of their normal day-to-day life, and then what happens, in that instruction, what happens in the camaraderie that takes place. Because when you get pitched outside of your routine and out of what's normal to you, you're by definition different because you have a different stimuli. So maybe you'll
Yeah,
come back and talk to me about that. I would really like that.
it, it'd be my extreme honor.
Well, well then, until next time, thanks for a great conversation, and I'm very grateful that you took the time to speak with me.
Thanks, brother.